AUGforums.com Real Talk. First, thank you to our sponsors, APS Payments, Kenzium, and DataSelf. You can learn more about how our sponsors work with Acumatica by going to augforums.com/sponsors. My name is Tim Rodman, and I'm coming to you live on Thursday, October 8th, 2020. This is episode number 27, the evolution of the Acumatica Construction Edition with Angela Bloomer and Kate Stepalina. Since this is the first time we've got two people being interviewed at the same time, we'll have to take turns here. Angela, I'll let you start off, and maybe you can introduce yourself and give us some background on what you did before Acumatica and what you do now in your role at Acumatica. And I should mention, these are both Acumatica employees here. We've got two people from Acumatica. Try finding another ERP company that will let someone like me interview two of their employees. I think you'll be hard-pressed to do that. So this is pretty cool to get the inside scoop on the Construction Edition. But go ahead, Angela, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, so my name is Angela Bloomer. I am now at Acumatica, Director of Product Management for the Construction Edition. And so just to kind of give you a little bit of my background so you understand where I came from, I started with Timberline in 2000. I started out as a customer support representative, and about a year after that, I moved into product management. I started working on educational type materials. So it's kind of interesting. One of my first projects that I did was the systems guide. So when I got there, I worked, with the product modules, and then I was instantly pulled on to the systems team, which helped people install the product, helped them with their networking, security type stuff. So when I moved into product management, of course, that was near and dear to my heart. So my first project was to develop that systems guide for everybody else that came on. So I got a lot of product management experience from that installation, got to see a lot of the pains there. Then I moved over to working on the product and started out with purchasing an inventory, and then went on to the GLAPR. Everybody knows that GL, AP, AR, and then also included payroll. And then I also worked, eventually over time, I had worked on pretty much every module that Timberline had except property management, which from what I hear, it was probably a good thing. It seemed like it might have been a tough module to have. So then Sage had acquired Timberline, and then all of a sudden we had this burst of excitement about this new project. So the idea was that for our construction and real estate team to take this UK-based product that Sage had and constructionize it. And I put that in quotes because we know that's not a real word, but it is in our world. And so the result of that was this product, which was called Sage Timberline Enterprise, or later changed to Sage Trade Specialty. And that lasted for a couple of years until that project was, we'll say, put to bed. And I won't go into the details about any of that. But the reason I bring that up is because I got a lot of experience being on that project. So I learned from that, not just tactically, but strategically. What do you do? What do you not do? How do you keep the focus and maintain your release cycles and get that target audience without ending up putting that project on a shelf? So then, as that project went away, Sage also acquired Master Builder from Intuit. So I moved over to being the product manager, and I was the only product manager for Master Builder for quite some time. So one of my first projects there was this whole UI modernization of revamping what's now called the Sage 100 Contractor product. And then my last project I did there was switching we migrated the product from a FoxPro database over to a Microsoft SQL database. So again, lots of good experience coming from these projects and how to maintain your customer's release cycle, the features, and keep that product moving forward as you're making those changes on the back end. And then I became the manager of product management there for all of the CRE products. So that was the last job that I had when I was there. So I was over the Timberline product, Master Builder, estimating, which was both the Pervasive and the SQL versions, and the Sage Construction Anywhere, which was the cloud product which was the cloud product that integrated back with on-prem products. And then I was also running the Construction Real Estate Development Partner Program. So it was quite the experience working with Timberline and Sage throughout those years. And so I took that experience, and once I left there, then I began my new journey. And here we are with Acumatica.
So you said you started at Timberline in 2000, and do you remember what year Sage acquired it?
I think it was, I'm thinking it was 2003, but I could be off on that. It's been a long time ago.
But not, yeah, it was close, fairly close to when you started there. And then you were mostly with Sage, and you went then straight from Sage to Acumatica, or was there something in the middle?
Well, in the middle, I did some consulting, which was
okay.
This whole project, the idea of this construction edition for Acumatica. I did work for a company in between there called Cloud Contractor Solutions as a consultant to get this construction edition going as product management. I was director of product management doing that. And after we released, then shortly thereafter, I moved over to become a member of the Acumatica family. So that consulting piece was very short. It was about 6 months or so. But I was in that position when we actually released in 2018.
Okay. But it was basically a move from Sage to Acumatica from
Yes.
a practical standpoint.
Correct.
And I guess what I'm curious about there is what motivated that for you? Like, what attracted you to make that move from one product on?
So it was pretty exciting, the idea of getting to take that experience that I had learned from that project I was telling you about earlier and bring that forward to create a construction edition that is on a native cloud product, and to be able to offer that. I mean, that project that I was working on before couldn't even do that. It was going to still be an on-prem product, but the idea of bringing a cloud product to customers who really needed it, that was exciting for me. The scary part, though, I have to say, leaving a company after 17 years to become employee number 1 at this consulting firm was pretty scary. We'll say that.
Yeah.
But it was also exciting at the same time to know just the possibilities of what we could do. And that was enough to get me up every day.
How excited you were. Yeah, I think that really underscores you must have really been motivated to make that move. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Then we also have Kate. Kate, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself and maybe what you did prior to Acumatica and what you do now.
Hi, everyone. I have a technical and software development background, and I started with Acumatica about 7.5 years ago. In the beginning, I was a programming technical writer. I was responsible for rewriting and revamping the training courses for developers who want to learn Acumatica platform, want to know how to code and develop functionality on it. After creation of these courses to the functional training courses, they are still technical, but they are more around how to use functionality, how it works. And I have prepared a range of courses from scratch. I had to learn Acumatica and convert my experience and what I learned into a format of training courses around financial modules, accounts payable, accounts receivable, general ledger. I had to learn in detail how distribution modules, sales orders, purchase orders, and inventory work. And also I was assigned a task to build a team who can create and maintain those training courses on a regular basis. So we built a team and together tasked to build a team who can create and maintain those training courses on a regular basis. So we built a team, and together wrote a lot of courses on different parts of functionality, on integration scenarios and customization and everything. Then in 2016, I moved to the development team. It was the distribution team, to a role of system analyst and technical product manager, who is responsible for functional design of a feature. And back then, the distribution team was responsible for distribution and project functionality of the product. Soon after I moved to the team, we started to build a dedicated team for project and construction functionality. Realized we as a company want to invest more into this part of the product.
So 2016, that's when I first met you at the summit in Orlando. Angela, I don't think I've actually met you in person yet, but I could be wrong because there's so many people at Summit. But so it sounds like you were already in a new role there at Acumatica in 2016, moving into I guess a combination of the educational side and the technical role in the distribution team.
So actually, I did. I went to as the consultant for CCS. I was at the Acumatica Summit that year, and I did meet you. It was just a quick.
Oh, you were in Orlando? You were there in Orlando?
Yes.
Or is that later? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, wow. So, interesting. So I met you both at the same summit. Wow. Summits are such a blur for me. I'm a total introvert, and I would do well if Summit was like in the mountains at a cabin retreat. But the way it is, I'm so overwhelmed with so many people. That's interesting. Well, that's
There were a lot of people.
So you both go back. So Kate, a little bit more, but you both, in terms of Acumatica years, you've been around for a while. I think you have to take the number of years you've been at Acumatica and multiply it by 5 or something like that to get a more equivalent of years experience at a regular company. So you've both been around for quite a while. I think it's interesting that you both have an educational background on both with Timberline and with Acumatica, how you kind of got started with things. That's pretty interesting.
I think it helps when you have to document features for customers to use, because you have to explain it to a customer how to use it. So if you can't give that detail to your developer who's going to develop it, then you're not going to get the feature that you want in the end. So I think it probably helped both of us coming from that kind of a background.
That makes a lot of sense. So before we go into the construction edition, which we'll want to talk about, maybe we could talk a little bit about how you both work now. I think you're probably on phone calls a few times a week now. I mean, how tightly are the two of you working these days?
Pretty tight. We're on calls probably at least, 3. I know of at least 3 standing meetings that we have each week, and then in between that we have even more calls. So we're constantly on the phone. Matter of fact, even this morning we're constantly on the phone. Matter of fact, even this morning we were going over some stuff, and so we got on the phone this morning at about 4:45 and worked for a little over an hour, I think.
And if we are not on the calls, we are writing emails and messages to each other all the time.
Yes.
So it might sound like that's not that difficult. You communicate with the people you work with, but Angela, I think you're in Portland, Oregon, and Kate, you're in Moscow, Russia. So that it sounds like a little bit of a challenge to keep that up. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're always, I think we're getting pretty good at figuring out the time zone change, the difference, so that we know exactly when the other one's working.
That's cool. Well, I think talking about the construction edition, given the amount of time we have here, there's no way we're going to cover everything you all have done in the last few years. But I do like to get into details. So maybe we could just start off with, how things started. I think I've heard there's a little bit of a story even around how you launched it in a somewhat of a secretive way with the Big Bang. Maybe let's get into some of those details. And we might not make it all the way till present day, but whatever you all would like to highlight, just starting with the beginning of the construction edition and then moving forward.
Okay, yeah, great. So when we first started this, it was, of course, a big secret. No one was allowed to tell anyone, which was tough because, you want to tell your friends what you're working on and you can't. But, or at least for me anyway, I had to be absolutely silent. And we kept it under wraps. I think we did a pretty good job. And then we planned to introduce the product at World of Concrete, January 2018. And it seemed like it was from what I understand, I wasn't there. I stayed behind the scenes because we still kept me under wraps for a while. And Kate and the development team were actually at World of Concrete. So it'd be great if she could tell a little bit about her experience there. But before she does, the thing that I wanted to bring up is that what I was hearing is that our booth was right across from one of our competitors and then diagonal from another competitor. We had a pretty good sized booth for what they would probably think wasn't a construction company. So you would have thought that they'd realize that there may have been something suspicious about that, but maybe not. I mean, trade shows are a pretty busy time, people getting ready, but yeah, we were right there, plain sight for quite a while. And then Kate can tell you about maybe even reactions and what happened there at the trade show.
It was the first time the development team, including myself, was attending such a big exhibition, World of Concrete in Las Vegas. Huge, thousands of people, and our booth was of a big size, and we were making noise with that hammer, the game, and we were doing demos on the booth for people who are interested, and it was very exciting. And I think we didn't even realize how big project we are launching at the moment, and we were definitely making noise on the exhibition at that time.
Both literally and figuratively there, huh?
Kate, that was the game where you used the hammer and you hit it and it was kind of like how strong you were, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
I just did a quick Google how many people attend World of Concrete. It says around 60,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot. Wow, it's a big event.
Yeah. So then, of course, after World of Concrete, we released on April 1st of 2018, which just coincidentally is also my birthday. And just throwing that out there. And then, so in our release, just to kind of go, this is our first release. So we focused on a number of the fundamental things. So we had the project accounting, so we had the cost codes. Inside that, we had change management, we had stored materials, retainage that we had to build in. And now this is just the beginning of that journey, by the way. And we had to do support for construction terminology. We had terminology, we had contracts, compliance, and of course, reports and inquiries. And then we had to have some construction specific sample data if we wanted anybody to be able to demo or be able to even test. So before we jump into, all these releases though, I think that Kate could probably give even more background on that, because from a development perspective, it was a lot more in depth than the way that I just described that first release.
Actually,
Yes.
Kate, before you do, I got a quick question on you mentioned the demo data. I think there were 3 different demo data sets. I'm just curious, is that still the case, or is it down to 1 demo data set now?
There were 3, and no, there's just the one now. We ended up merging all of those at one point, and then and now I mean, even now with 20R2, maybe I'll give up a little bit of a secret there. Maybe it's not a secret anymore. That we have now merged all of the construction demo data into the sales demo. So it's
Oh,
all
interesting.
one package now.
Okay.
So
Oh, cool.
exciting.
Okay. So sorry, Kate, go ahead. I'll let you talk about
That's fine.
more of the details.
Indeed, before we were able to work on the first feature for construction, we realized we had to do substantial changes to the project accounting functionality, to the basics of it. And it was back in 2017, in 17R2 release, we changed a lot of things around the design of the project's module. In particular, we revisited billing process and untied billing process from a project allocation process, which in earlier versions of Acumatica was required before you are able to run project billing. So now project billing was available without any allocation. Also, we introduced a new type of document, pro forma invoice, which is the project invoice. And in that document, we natively supported progress billing and time and material billing, because those two types of billing are fundamental for project accounting, for project billing. And progress billing is the foundation for the construction functionality to come. Also, what we did is we brought the project budgeting to the higher level, to the project level, and supported different combinations, options for the level of detail how users project. Because sometimes they want to do it just at the task level, sometimes they want to have greater detail. So we introduced those features which were very basic for project accounting, and then started to build construction functionality on top of it for our first release for 2018.
And
I think that's a point to me that's worth underscoring about Acumatica in general, that you're not afraid to get in and make a core change. I think with a lot of products, at a certain point, it is what it is, and you just don't touch that level of detail. You just touch the UI, things like that. Acumatica makes some fairly deep core changes and is not afraid to do that. And I think that's, to me, part of the culture of the company.
Yeah, it's definitely the culture, because we pay a lot of attention to the functional and technical design of the foundation. It has to be robust because we want to implement a lot of business functionality on top of it in later releases. So while we are doing that core feature, we make significant efforts to do it right. And when we are doing it, we think what kind of features we will be adding in 2-3 years on top of it. So we have to build the basement right.
That's right. You got to get that foundation right. That's cool.
And so I just want to add on, if it's okay, that what Kate's saying, where we have to go down and dig into the foundation and make those changes, we knew that our customers needed specific functionality that many of the legacy products on the market couldn't provide. I mean, they have the old UI, their client server that have to be accessed remotely, and we wanted our customers to be able to be successful. So we thought about it, and we know that those other products, they've had 10, 20, 30 plus years to build in the depth of their products. So what we had to do as an organization is decide how we were going to handle that. So that's when we came up with the idea for the rapid release rhythm that we wanted to do. So basically what that means is that we would build and release a feature release every 8 weeks. And we did that from the time that we initially launched in 2018. So when you think about it, fundamentally, we took a very strategic approach to this construction edition. We even set up our team structure different than what the rest of the team structures were like within the Acumatica organization, because we wanted to really take that strategic approach and be tight about the information that we were sharing within our group that we were then getting out to our customers. So we built that product that you see today, and we did it in record time. I mean, if you think about it, even the first release with all the core stuff that Kate was talking about, that was pretty quick that we were able to do that. And it was because of the strength of our platform that we could do that. We used it in our favor. And it was extremely exciting for all of us, really, to know that we were able to catch up with so many of the unique solutions that none of our competitors could offer, but also catch up with the functionality that they were providing is at a minimum. And we actually had more than that, because there would be times when there was a feature that we didn't quite finish by the end of that 8 weeks, and we still wanted to get it out, and we didn't want to wait another 8 weeks. So we would do another update in between to get it out. So for a 2.5-year-old product that has over 15 feature releases, I think that's pretty exciting, really. And
rapid is a great word for it. Rapid
yes.
release.
Yeah, and I mean, even just what I mentioned earlier is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, Kate could probably even tell you more about what we did in 2018.
Yeah,
And
after
real quick there, from the very beginning, then the two of you were already working closely together, or was construction in orbit for a little bit? Or really from the very beginning, it was a joint effort between the core team and the construction team?
From the very beginning.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Kate.
From the very beginning.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Kate.
Once we had that foundation in 2017 release, we started to add construction functionality to the product. And from the very beginning, we wanted it to be the core functionality. And it was a joint effort of many of the teams, of the finance team, of the distribution team, of our team, to develop that functionality. For example, if we take retainage, retainage is a big concept and one of the main concepts in construction. And the finance team was working on it very hard and introduced retainage support in both AR and AP modules in the very first release of the 2018. And it was a challenge to add that functionality to already existing modules, considering the complexity, the many-to-many relationship between invoices and payments, and they managed that. And also we worked hand in hand with the distribution team who developed retainage support in purchase orders. And we released all the retainage support in one version of the product altogether by the joint efforts of 3 teams, which is also pretty exciting. And
across multiple time zones, I might add, right? Yeah, that's impressive. Rapid with time zone communication.
Also, I wanted to tell you a story about cost codes. So when we were designing cost codes, analyzing business requirements, it became absolutely clear to us that the cost code has to be in every transaction. And we were brainstorming how this feature should be done from the functional and technical perspective in the product. And we even had an idea to reuse sub-accounts to support business scenarios with cost codes. But when we ran this idea by our partners, they said, no, never, you should not do this. And we revisited that idea, and took a difficult decision to implement a more expensive and more complex solution, but to make sure we do the product right. And we added cost code to every document, every transaction in the system as a separate field. It's a separate entity in the product.
So this was not just a collaboration between internal teams. There was actually partner input as well?
We had industry experts helping us to understand the needs. And Angela, maybe maybe can talk about this more.
So we had, and this was very early on when all of this was happening. So it was basically us from the consulting side of things, and the people that I was working with to also gather research, giving that information back to them, feedback, taking it and bringing it into that process about whether we wanted to use those sub accounts or whether we wanted to go with a different path. And so it was a group at that time of people, but since then it's definitely grown.
So you got a lot of collaboration going on there, both inside and outside. Both of you must be pretty good at juggling to do that job well.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. At least we could put that on our resumes if we ever need to.
You could go to birthday parties and people might just expect you to be able to pick up some balls and start juggling.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a lot of moving pieces, and to pull that off, and not just pull it off initially, but keep that trajectory, like you said, with the what did you say, was it every 8 weeks?
Weeks.
Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Every 8 weeks, and you've kept that going for years now.
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of the other things to highlight from that journey over the last few years? Some of the challenges, some of the things you're proud of.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty proud of the fact that, the collaboration, I mean, that's one. You've mentioned it a few times, and it's huge. Without having that collaboration and everyone on the team driving for the same goal with the same passion, I don't even know what that would have been like. Everyone is so positive about what we're doing and dedicated to getting the work done that missing deadlines just wasn't really something that we did. We all wanted to make sure that we were doing our part to be dependent. Now, did we slip a day or two on certain things? Yeah, everybody does. It's just that, like you said, there's a lot of juggling going on. But for our releases, that was our main goal. Release on time. If we promise a release in a time frame, that time frame is when we deliver. So that might mean we had to make a few changes there, towards the end when it was getting to release time, if we didn't have something that wasn't quite finished, but it was all coordination in order to be able to do that. And then another thing that I think is a big deal for us is that, as we grew and we got, after we got that first release out and we got to the attention from some of the other partners out in the industry, and they came to us, that we were able to pull them together to create what we called this partner advisory board. And in that, what we did was we picked all of these partners that wanted to be a part of it, that knew construction. And then we formed this group and we brought everybody together for our first meeting, which happened in June of 2018 at CFMA. So we used this event that was already thinking about the roadmap. This is where we're planning to go with it. Let's talk about prioritization. Let's talk about other industry challenges that you guys are encountering, and let's see what we can do as far as being able to build that back into the product. And then the other thing that I think that I'm sure Kate is too, pretty excited about is the fact that as our internal team grew, it wasn't just us and these business partners. The construction team grew, and we kind of joke around that if you combine everybody's experience together, we have over 150 years of experience And it's just because each of those people, and they're in all different departments, right? So you have product management, product marketing, development, support, sales, pre-sales, and services. So every department has somebody who has come from the construction industry, with years of experience. And so with this diverse group, of course, they all come from competitors, right? So it's not just like me coming from Sage. We have others that have come from the other competitors that are out there, which makes us a very collaborative and knowledgeable, we'll say, group about what we're up against. So we think that that's really important, having the right people there so that we can offer the right solution. And so that, I mean, this construction edition is built for construction companies by construction experts. And on top of that, when you look at it from an Acumatica point of view, I mean, it's not just the construction edition that's like this. It's all of them. It's manufacturing and e-commerce and distribution. Every single team has their group of experts so that they can bring that expertise to the product, which then gives us a unique ability that our competitors don't have to bring the construction edition and the manufacturing edition. We have multiple customers who have both. And because of that expertise on both sides and bringing those together, they get the best solution for what they're trying to do. And just to give you an example, like say we have a customer who does prefabrication of modular homes. They have both the manufacturing so that they can design their homes, because they build them and then deliver them, and then they have the construction side of it to track the project. So these are all things that I'm very excited about and proud of, as far as even outside of our development.
That hybrid construction and manufacturing play right now for Acumatica, I don't know if there's anyone else who can really do it. It's a very compelling story there, to be able to have one platform for everything. I'm curious, maybe for Kate on this one, you mentioned two things, Angela: prioritizing things and the diverse background of the construction team, and same with the other modules. When I hear those two things together, I wonder what the debates are like internally, and I'm curious if Kate, you would agree with this or not. But there's a guy named Rob Colley who runs a website called PowerPivotPro.com. It's a Power BI website, and he talks about his days when he worked at Microsoft, and he has this blog post where he calls the culture at Microsoft in those early days, especially, that the flavor of the culture was the cult of the right thing. And Acumatica, to me, strikes me as a similar culture in that there's a cult of the right thing. And I'm curious if you would agree with that. Like, is that the atmosphere you think is there? Because I would think you'd have some competing opinions a lot of times, right? But what do you think about that?
I can comment that first. Actually, I feel very lucky, and I'm very happy that we share the same values. And on the main questions, on the fundamental questions, we have the same opinion, which is which is extremely positive and extremely effective and gives us productivity. However, we may have different visions on the details, or maybe on the priorities, which we of course discuss and come up with a final result. But I can say we work together and we produce our mutual result. It's not a result of someone, of a single person. It's truly a team result. And the advantage which we are using is that values. And when you all have the same understanding on what is good and what is bad, it's very easy to discuss things and make decisions.
And on that note, I have to tell you this. One of the funniest stories for me is after starting to work with the team to really dig in and figure out all of the different places that the construction edition would touch, right? So you see all these, it's like an octopus with these tentacles out into all the modules. And so we had this meeting where all of us got together in one location. I think it was in Virginia when we did that at the office there. And so we're kind of going around, we're doing our presentations and we're talking through stuff. And all of a sudden there's this debate breaks out. And so everybody's going back and forth with what they think that it should be. And it was pretty exciting to watch because, I mean, without this way, it should be this way, but what about the product does this? You know, it's all these ideas going back and forth. And that to me was exciting because I didn't have that at Sage. I mean, I never saw anything like that there. What this meant to me was there was transparency. I mean, people were willing to be candid about what they saw, what they felt, and their ideas, and not just hide them. Let's get it all out there. Let's hash it out. Let's figure it out. And by the time it was all done, we just moved on to the next topic as if nothing had ever happened. So it was eye-opening, exciting, and fun all at the same time.
It's interesting how Angela calls this debates, and it's not even a debate to me. It's just a regular conversation when you just have different visions how a feature can be done. That's fine, but in the main aspect, you're on the same page anyway. In the main aspect, you're on the same page anyway. So in my terminology, it's not even a debate. Sorry.
I think the American presidential debates are maybe changing the word of debate. I think debate is a very positive thing. Or maybe we need another word for it now.
It's a regular work process.
Yes, well, I've experienced the same thing at the Acumatica hackathons. I mean, I've experienced exactly the same thing. You had these, I'll call them heated conversations to someone outside looking in. And I think that is a surprising thing, that you don't just have a bunch of developers saluting the product manager. You have everyone having a say in it. And it's a bit of a scrum. Maybe that's a better word for it. But what comes out of it is not hurt feelings from what I've seen. I think from what you're describing, what comes out of it is a better product. I think from what you're describing, what comes out of it is a better product and even a stronger team. So I think it's not easy to achieve that kind of a culture. And you know, I'm sure everyone wonders what the secret sauce is there at Acumatica to make that happen. But to achieve that is not an easy thing, I think, right? So it's pretty cool to hear those details.
I would agree with you, and I think that trust and respect are two of the ingredients in that secret sauce, and important, right? So you have respect for people who are going to voice their opinion and be a part of a conversation. They're basically pulling up to the table and saying, I'm in, versus somebody who's just sitting there listening, observing, and doesn't participate. So it's great to see.
Well, I know for, quick time check here, we're calling this maybe I'll link to those release notes for the details of this, but I think getting into these stories and just hearing the passion and hearing how you all communicate, to me, is the kind of stuff I was looking for. And maybe just to bring us forward to where we're at now, my understanding, and you all can give more details here, but my understanding is that with Acumatica 2020 R2, construction is now in the core code, whereas before that, it was part of customization projects, which for those who don't know, customization projects, to me, is really the visible front-end name for the magic that's happening in the Acumatica platform, and that it's not a second-class citizen, it's a first-class citizen in the product, and that's what really enables you to do that rapid development. But now in 2020 R2, it's part of the core, which to me is huge, because my concern was always that construction would, not always, but that it would kind of take its own path and almost fork the project. You actually brought it in within a few years into the core code. At least that's my understanding. Maybe you could give me more of a deeper level explanation of that.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, it was towards like the end of 2019. I talked about the partner advisory board that we had. Well, we also created a customer advisory board that we brought together. I'm trying to remember. I think that was June of 2018. No, July of 2019. Sorry, July of 2019, when we brought together and created a customer advisory board, which has 16 representatives from different companies and different industries. And so we had the customer advisory board and the partner advisory board by this time. And so it was becoming very clear with the feedback that we were getting from them and even from our customers that the product was a lot stronger, it had more depth, and at this time they were ready for us to slow down. So that was our indicator, right? We didn't make the decision that it was time to slow down. We were going to keep going because we were going to get where we needed to be. But they were like, hold on, you need to slow down a little bit. Let us take this in. There's a lot here now. And so that's when we decided that we needed to bring construction in as a part of that core rhythm to the rest of the product. And so we removed the customization packages to simplify the process. And then that doesn't mean, though, that we're not still planning to accelerate growth on the construction edition. It just means that we're bringing it in and into the core and then moving forward. Kate, would you add anything to that?
Yes, we never stopped introducing new features. We've switched from the rapid development to the regular release cycle. We just merged the pieces which were prior to that distributed as customization packages, but we didn't have to rewrite anything. These pieces were natively written on the platform from the beginning. So we just merged them, and it was a relatively easy task. And at the same time, we were working on the new functionality.
So maybe I guess what I'm hearing is you shifted from a rapid release to a regular release, but on the internal backend side, you still have a rapid development mindset. The features just aren't seeing the light of day as frequently as they were before.
Kind of. I mean, we still work as quickly as possible. We do it based on quarters. So when we have a major release that's coming out, we plan out 2 quarters, which are part of that release, and what's going to happen during those, so that we can determine when features will be available based on Preview 1, Preview 2, Beta, RTW, those releases that we make available to our partners. So we're still continuing that process. And so features are completed along the way. But when I talk about still wanting to accelerate the construction edition, that means that we're looking for other areas within the market that we can go after that will expand our reach. We'll say that. I don't want to give too much away, but we have big plans to accelerate through the market.
There's no lack of ambition there at Acumatica. I picked that up.
No. No. We have lots of ideas. It's just which ones are we going to go with next?
Well, a huge congrats on, from my standpoint, having construction in the core code is a big deal from just the practical side of upgrades and things like that. I know it sounds like, Kate, to you, is moving the customization project in wasn't that big of a deal. To me, though, it's a big deal that you really have it part of that core install file. And huge congrats on what I thought was maybe a more difficult process to pull that off. And I guess maybe that just speaks to the power of the Acumatica framework, that it wasn't actually that difficult to bring into the core. That's interesting to hear.
Yeah, it is. And I know we're running out of time, and I think if I had to look back over our whole conversation and pull out probably a really meaningful story that you hear across all of this, is that Acumatica as a whole really cares about the customers. wants them to have a product that's going to help their businesses succeed. And I think, this past year, we've been keeping the momentum going, but I mean, we face challenges just like every other excuse me, company has with the COVID-19 pandemic happening. But it didn't really, I mean, we were busy, right? But it hit me when I started to see the tweets, the recorded messages on Twitter and on LinkedIn, and then our CEO was getting emails from customers thanking him for offering this cloud product, because as you know, many companies all of a sudden, when they have all of their employees that have to go remote, they help get their employees remote. And we had customers, and one example would be Dawn from Pin Oak. She was a part of one of our panels on navigating COVID-19 with the Construction Cloud Edition. And she talked about how it's so much easier in the product overall that they were planning to go remote, but this pandemic pushed them to move quicker. And so they ended up overnight flipping the switch, and the next day everybody was just able to log in and do what they needed to do. So business didn't even really come to a halt for them. It just changed the way they were doing it. And when we were seeing all these messages come in, and it wasn't just construction, it was every edition. We're seeing all these messages come in and these heartfelt videos talking about what they're doing. It hit all of us company-wide that this is huge, and we took it. It was really heartwarming for us. Huge, and we took it. It was really heartwarming for us, and we took that, and we are going to take that even going forward into our releases going over the next, all of them, forever with us, knowing that what we're doing is the right thing for our customers and we're helping them succeed even in times like these. And that's what we want to do. We want to be here for our customers.
That's really cool. Thank you both for coming on today, and thank you to Acumatica. I think it just shows the level of transparency that exists. This is not a smoke and mirrors type of a product. Hearing these kind of details, the kind of stuff I'm always interested in, and I really appreciate being able to have two Acumatica employees tell some of the stories. I think maybe we can do a part 2 or part 3. I know there's a lot that we could talk about. So thanks again to both of you for your time today.
Thank you. It was nice to be here.
Thank you for the invitation.
All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll catch you on the next episode of AUGforums.com.